back to Tools and Track. None of that shit fits. Yeah, I couldn't really resist having a wee test fit. I was having to tidy up and the panels were in the way, so the most logical place to put them is on the car. And I'm reminded once again that none of this stuff fits. So I'm going to take it off and ignore it like I normally do, but it's good just to test fit things from time to time and remind yourself what you've got sitting ahead of you. Now, one of the biggest problems that I've got sitting ahead of me is going to be this back clamshell. It's just nowhere near lining up. And before I go cutting and butchering things, I want to make sure I'm doing it for the right reasons. So again, I've stuck it on, but nah, it's not right. But one of the reasons it's not right is because the wheels don't seem to line up. And one of the reasons the wheels don't line up is because they are 17-inch MX5 wheels. And this is never running 17-inch MX5 wheels. So I'm getting ahead of myself. That's really the kind of gist of what I'm trying to say here. So apologies if I think there's bodywork around this soon, but a lot of other things will need to be resolved first. Every time I do a great big, project jump episode like getting this thing rolling, see after it, I get this weird sort of phobia about going back and finishing a list because I don't know really what the next big monumental step's going to be. And it's probably because there's still so many things in the list to get through before the next monumental step. But that's not really productive, so gotta keep the momentum going. Oh, get into it. So what we're going to do is finish this list and see what I need to then do to get to the next big milestone, whatever that may be. And therein lies my first problem. This is the alternator we took off the car. None of what I'm about to tell you will stop me doing the alternator bracket relocating it, but good glove. It's seized. Somewhere between this car coming off the road and the engine going back in, it's completely locked up. Oh, there we go. It doesn't feel great. It's going to need to get an overhaul, which means, because of finances, it's way down the list. Whilst we wait until funds recoup, I'm going to skip past the alternator and come back to it at a later point in time. It's also going to give me that thinking time to come up with a bracket. Also, it's going to give me time to chip through the rest of this list. There is a big obvious thing I need to do next on the list, which is engine mounts. Yeah, that needs shortened a lot. Let's work out how we're going to do this. Right, well, we know it needs chopped. Question is to what length and how do we chop it? Now, I did say this is going to go away and get properly welded and balanced somewhere else, but I need to give them the length, or better yet, give it pre-chopped so they can just put it back together and give me it back. So, it would make sense to chop it close to the diff for no other reason other than I can see a pretty obvious flange to chop it at. As for length, well, we'll get to that. Well, let's take it off and chop it. Alright, we've done some measurements. Our gap from output shaft where the seal is to the pinion on the diff is 615. The prop shaft length is On the section that we've cut here, 785, and in the stump that remains, 116. So we add the two of these together and subtract that, we are left with, where's my pen? 286 mil. So that's what we need to chop out of here. The question is, and the reservation that I've got, is how do we chop it out bang on straight? Because what we need to have here is a face that will weld on absolutely flush and perfect and straight to the stump that we've left here. Because if it's not absolutely straight, not going to get too hung up on it though, because like I said, I'm going to send it away to get balanced. Now, this calculation is leaving as much meat on as possible. If they need to take a wee skim and a wee flush off, I do have enough length on here, and I think I probably will need it as well, for that to come out a couple of mil. Bear in mind that this spline is designed in a way that it will take up and have a bit of slack in it, because if this and this are absolutely solid fitted, and that is mounted up and starts flexing around, it's going to shunt quite hard against the gearbox, and we don't want that. So you do need a wee bit of slack here. What I'm going to do is do a dry run, tack it all together, and see how much slack it actually gives us. Hopefully enough that I can send this away, get it properly welded and balanced, and it'll work. So let's crack on and do that. Except we won't, because the first thing I'm going to do before that is fit the drive shafts. This might seem, by the way, like I'm just babbling and making this up as I go along. The reason is because I am. There's lots of things that are coming to me as this all goes along, and it is a bit of an evolution in my mind rather than what it was in the first 10 or so episodes where it was book planned and you were following a design. At this stage, we're very, very much relying on engineering and common sense. I don't have a lot of either of this. So yes, drive shafts. Let me explain. This isn't a spoiler. This is for the compressor. Apologies. Bollocks, and it's wet. Excuse me a moment. That was a diversion, wasn't it? Okay, why are these going in first? Well, there's a number of reasons for this. First off, I need to make sure that they're going to A, clear the suspension mounts we put in, B, actually fit to the measurements that I've made everything here, because if none of that works, C, we may have to move the diff. And if we have to move the diff, that's going to bugger up the length of the prop shaft. So before we go any further, we need to do that dry run and make sure that this guy is going to live here forever. Because if it does live here forever, we know that that length is going to be correct. So, what we're feeling for montage music now. Play the tune. How unlike us to have a simple task that is now escalated into major surgery. Right, the remaining drive shaft. Your CV joint should be able to do that. Move in and out, articulate, but still spin the shaft. What we have on the outer is the ability to articulate, no ability to move, and as soon as you pop it out, so it's dislocated. The problem is, no matter what I do, I can't get it to embed back in the way it should be. Which suggests to me there's a bearing roller brace away in it or something, but we're not going to be able to fix it until we take the boot off. So, hooray for grease, mess and further tasks that we didn't plan on. There was no way these scabby old things were ever going to go back on a car that's going to go through an IVA. So yes, at some point these were going to get replaced. I just wanted to, you know, get like a rolling chassis before we had to replace them. It just needs to prove a concept at the moment. Let's have a look and see what we've got. Well, that's quite surprising. I was expecting worse. What's actually happened here is, when we've pulled out the diff, we've obviously pulled that out as well. It's just a spline with a circlip that's on it. So having looked at this, it's popped off, but the circlip's still there. So we're going to have a wee clean up and just make sure that it looks right, and then we'll just hammer it back on. So I'm not going to get too hung up on making it right at the moment. I just want it to sit in place. I'm not causing major dramas, like it's doing right now. Right. Whilst it now articulates, it's still, I hate to say it, it's not doing the move it in out thing. I think this is dead, but it's back in place, so it'll do for lining up. Right, where were we? I'm happy enough the drive shafts are in, they look straight, the spin, the thing's doing what it should do, so let's move on to chopping this for good. Now yeah, it's a bit of a daunting task, but I need to keep reminding myself, even if we get this wrong, which I don't plan on doing, but if we get it wrong, it's an MX5 prop shaft. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get another one for not a lot of money. But we'll try and do this one right. So I've got a line here, ready to chop, and I'm sure you'll ask yourself, but how did you get the line straight? So now we're taking 286 mil. So I have taken that from the end, 286, marked the dot, spun it round, marked the dot, spun it round, marked the dot, spun it round. Blah, 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 blah. Once I've got a whole series of dots all the way around here, I have very carefully, and as straight hand as I can, joined them all up to be a straight line. If that's straight, so will that be. Right, let's cut. Yeah, I am actually going to just eyeball this and tack it into place. Now, it's not permanent. Again, don't shoot me down internet. I just want to see if a dry run's going to work. So the prop is on and it spins. That's good. I'll be honest, that's better than I thought it was going to be, so I'll take that. However, a little dirty bit of me is tempted to just weld this up and send it, and then just, you know, get it balanced if it needs balanced. So, you know, how balanced is it at the moment? Well, there's a very easy way to suss this one out. What you will need is one of these. This is a dial test indicator, or DTI. Basically, it's a vernier, but the needle tells you how much you move. Now, as you can see, that's quite a lot of movement. This is a 0 to 10 millimeter gauge, and each revolution of this clock is 1 millimeter. So, I don't really know what the tolerance is for a prop, but I'd like to think that anything within the sort of half a mil region might be okay. So let's put it on and let's see. I really doubt it. But, you know, in the interest of science, before I send this away, let's see if it's close enough. Yeah, 2 millimeters probably pushing my luck. I don't even know what the tolerance is, like I said, but 2 millimeter of run out is more than I'm comfortable with. Time for the professionals, I think. At least it's chopped. I'll need to take this off now and send it off for proper welding. So at this point, I'm going to wrap up. That's us for this week, guys. To all the patrons running up the side of the screen, mad props. Get it? Thanks for the support. If you don't know what that's about, patreon.com/JoesandDrac. It's literally paying for this nonsense. If that's not your thing and you've just joined us, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, because it's the only way we grow. And we will be back next week, probably with more Impreza, but following that we'll be back on this guy, because we've got an alternator to fit. But more importantly, we've got far more procrastination to do to stop me putting an alternator on the car. Stay tuned and you'll find out what I'm talking about. See you later. No. This isn't me being unfit. I've started going to the gym so that I can fit in this better. Well, this is not dignified. So I'm humped basically. It's right. I'm getting it. Must get better at that.